Hey guys, and welcome to Shay Unscripted. If it's your first time, then welcome. If you're a returning subscriber or viewer, then thank you for returning and showing me love and support like you always do. And now that I'm done that intro, let's get into it. Before we get lost in timelines and theories, let's take a step back. Who was Aaliyah Shadeay Bell? Aaliyah was born January 30th, 1996. At 18, she was like so many young women, standing on that edge between teenage life and adulthood. Friends remember her as funny, confident, the kind of person who can make you laugh when you needed it. She was finishing up her time at Phoenix Academy, an alternative high school in Rock Hill. She wanted to be a hairstylist. She talked about it all the time. Her family said she was always on her phone, active on social media, and rarely went long without checking in. When you look at pictures of Aaliyah, you don't see a headline, you don't see a case number. You see a young woman with her whole future ahead of her. She wasn't just someone's missing child. She was a daughter, a niece, a cousin, a friend. She had dreams like any other teenager, and she had people who loved her deeply. On November 25th, 2014, just 2 days before Thanksgiving, Aaliyah walked out of a family home in Rock Hill, South Carolina, and she was never seen again. Since that night, her family has been living the kind of nightmare no one ever wants to imagine, wondering if their daughter is safe, wondering if she's alive, and fighting year after year for answers that still haven't come. One of the hardest parts of piecing together Aaliyah's story is that even the most basic detail, where she was last seen, isn't crystal clear. According to some reports, including early coverage in the Rock Hill Herald and the Charlotte Observer, Aaliyah left her grandmother's home on North Confederate Avenue around 9:30 that night. Her uncle Bobby Hall told reporters that she was headed towards his house on Chestnut Street, just a few blocks away. That account has weight behind it. It's backed by quotes from her own family and by local journalists reporting on the case as it unfolded. But then, as the story spread in later years through blogs, podcasts, even missing person databases, a different version began circulating. In those retellings, Aaliyah wasn't leaving her godmother's house at all. She was leaving her uncle's house on Chestnut Street, supposedly headed towards her godmother's place. Two versions of the same night, two possible starting points, and only one could be right. When we weigh them side by side, the timeline reported at the time of her disappearance seems far more reliable. Those were the words of her uncle, recorded and published by journalists who spoke with the family directly. The flip version, the one that puts her at her uncle's house last, seems to have come later, maybe through retellings, misremembered details, or even just a mistake that spread online. Still, the fact that there is even a question here is unsettling, because when the foundation of a timeline isn't solid, it makes it even harder to track what might have happened in those final moments Aaliyah was seen alive. After Aaliyah didn't show up at her uncle's house and her family couldn't reach her, alarm bells went off. She wasn't the type to disappear without saying something, especially not leaving behind her phone, her wallet, and $100 that had been wired to her earlier that day. Her family contacted police, and Rock Hill PD officially opened a missing persons case. Now, in any disappearance, the first 48 hours are critical. Investigators usually start with the people closest to the missing person. Family, friends, the last ones to see her. That's where the conflicting accounts of her last known location immediately made things harder. Was she last seen leaving her godmother's or her uncle's? The early newspaper reports suggest the godmother's house was her starting point, but other sources say it was her uncle's. If even the basics are unclear, it's hard to know which route to search, which neighbors to question, or where to check for surveillance cameras. Despite the confusion, investigators followed every lead they got. Some tips suggested that Aaliyah may have been spotted in Charlotte, Fayetteville, even Atlanta, cities hours away from Rock Hill. There were also reports that she'd been seen at motels in the region after she vanished, but every one of those sightings fizzled out. Nothing ever confirmed. No hard evidence she'd been there. What made things even more frustrating is that Aaliyah wasn't carrying her phone. That meant no pings, no text records, no GPS trail, the kind of data that can often make or break a case. With no digital footprint and no confirmed sightings, investigators were left chasing shadows. In 2015, the FBI issued a ViCAP alert for Aaliyah, a way to get her case in front of law enforcement across the country. The alert described her tattoos, piercings, and the circumstances of her disappearance, hoping someone, somewhere, will recognize her. Even with this national attention, there were no new leads that led to her whereabouts. Nearly 9 years later, in 2023, her case made headlines again. Investigators began reviewing whether Aaliyah's disappearance could have been connected to Rex Hireman, the man charged in the Gilgo Beach murders. Hireman owned property in Chester County, South Carolina, not far from Rock Hill. With a man like that in the spotlight, police wanted to make sure there wasn't a connection to Aaliyah. So far, though, no evidence links him to her disappearance. The fact that her case came up in that context shows how open-ended it still is, and how much remains unknown. With Aaliyah's trail gone cold so quickly, investigators and her family have been left with questions and no easy answers. Some have wondered if she left on her own. Could she have run away? But everything points to the opposite. She left behind her phone, her wallet, her money, the essentials she'd need. Friends and family say she was close to her loved ones. It doesn't fit. Others believe something more sinister happened. Perhaps she got into a car with someone she trusted, or someone who forced her. That walk between her godmother's home and her uncle's wasn't far, but it only takes a single moment for a life to change forever. For Aaliyah's family, the years have been excruciating. Every holiday, every birthday, every milestone she should have celebrated is now shadowed by questions. They've kept her memory alive with vigils, social media campaigns, and working with police to keep the case open. The community has rallied to posting flyers, sharing tips, and keeping her story from fading. But the pain, the uncertainty, and the lack of answers remain. A daily reminder that someone they love is still missing. Aaliyah Shadeay Bell deserves answers. Her family deserves answers. If you are in Rock Hill on the night of November 25th, 2014 and saw something, no matter how small, it could be the missing piece of the puzzle. If you have any information about her disappearance, contact the Rock Hill Police Department, the FBI ViCAP unit, or leave an anonymous tip. Even the tiniest detail could help bring clarity, closure, and hopefully justice for Aaliyah. Aaliyah was just 18. She had dreams. She had plans. She had a life full of possibilities. And for now, she remains out of reach. A reminder of how fragile life can be, how quickly it can change, and how important it is to remember those that are missing. This is her story, and is still waiting for answers. So guys, that's all I have for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on your notification bell so you don't miss my next one. And I'll catch you guys next time.